Welcome back to the Dr. Matthew Hyland's Pilot Plant. I'm Chef Rob Dumas, and I'm joined here today by Dr. Colt Knight, and we are continuing our video series on poultry breakdown. And now we're going to get into how we approach cooking different cuts of poultry based on if they're lightly used muscles or heavily used muscles, and then approaching that with either low and slow or hot and fast cooking techniques. And we're going to illustrate several different preparations today as kind of foundational cooking techniques, not so much, recipes that you have to follow to a T to have a good outcome. This is about cooking principles. So I'm excited to do these videos today. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll be cooking shortly. Very good. We're going to jump into our next video here, and in this video we're going to work on breaking down or on cooking our Statler breasts from our chicken breakdown. So a Statler breast is a semi-boneless breast with the tenderloin removed. So the tenderloin lays right here in the underside of the breast against the animal's rib cage. We've removed that from these breasts, so we have a nice skin on with only the first wing joint still attached. And I've done a process called Frenching, where I've removed some of the extra cartilage from the end of the wing bone. Completely optional, but I do find that it helps this portion of the wing cook a little bit more evenly with the rest of the breast. So the approach we're going to take to cooking this is a hot and fast approach, or a dry cooking approach. We're going to do what's called a butter-based, and we're going to add to that butter garlic and herbs, and we're going to cook this just in a skillet on the stovetop. So very easy, very simple preparation, and when done right is a great way to really show some technique in cooking. It's going to be seasoned very simply because a lot of our flavor is going to be coming from the herbs and the butter at the end of the cooking process. So again, we're going to season with kosher salt. We're going to sprinkle over our Statler breasts here. Okay, you want to make sure that you season that wing there. We're going to do a little bit of pepper. Pepper's optional. If you don't like pepper, you can certainly leave it out and just do salt, and this will still taste very good. But I love the little bit of warmth that freshly cracked black pepper adds. I'm a big proponent of fresh cracked rather than buying the already ground stuff. Spices really rely on very volatile oils and compounds to add flavor to things, and when you grind them, you release all of that flavor, and it gets very stale tasting as it sits. So whenever possible, get yourself a nice pepper mill and grind your own pepper as needed. So we've seasoned this nicely on the top and the bottom, and you just want to take a minute to make sure that your skin is nice and evenly spread out over your chicken breast. So these two are ready to go into my skillet. I've got about a 12-inch saute pan here, medium size. I've got it heating up over a medium-low heat. And again, I'm going to go in with just enough of a neutral cooking oil, such as vegetable oil, to coat the bottom of my pan. I don't want to get this too ripping hot because, unlike our chicken thighs, for this one I'm looking to really cook this nice and slow. Anytime you're putting something into a hot pan, lay it down away from you, and that will save you a lot of potential pain if you are to lose control and splash that hot fat onto you. So now that I've set these into this pan, I'm going to turn my heat down to low, and I'm going to try to accomplish roughly 75% of my cooking on the skin side of this chicken. And what that's going to do is it's going to cause that chicken skin to get incredibly crisp, but it also is using that chicken skin to protect that tender breast meat, to keep it from getting tough and dried out from the prolonged cooking. So very easy technique. The biggest challenge, I think, is heat management. You want to make sure that you've got your heat hot enough, but not too hot. So it's a little bit of a balancing game, but if you try this a couple times, you'll figure it out. I am taking just a minute to make sure that I've got good contact with the pan, and essentially I'm going to let this cook low and slow. We'll come back in just a little bit, we'll flip them over, and we'll start basting them out with our butter and herbs. So our chicken is flipped over. We've got really beautiful skin incredibly crispy. I can feel it. It is gonna just be crunchy and delicious when we cook it. But now we wanna work some more flavor into this, and we wanna help this chicken finish cooking through. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use some unsalted butter. We're gonna go in with about 3.5, maybe 4 tablespoons. And into that butter, we're gonna add some herbs. So the herbs we're gonna use here, we're gonna use rosemary, we're gonna use sage, and we're gonna use thyme. And then we're also going to use some garlic. Now, when you are cooking, it's all about extracting flavor. Flavors can be extracted using water, fat, or alcohol. In this case, we're using fat. So we are going to really work some of the deep, savory flavors out of these herbs by infusing this butter and rendered chicken fat, as well as the residual oil that we added earlier, with this delicious herby flavor, with the flavor of the garlic. And then we're going to pick that fat up and we're going to baste it over this chicken. So right now, I'm just letting these herbs really infuse this fat with all their good flavor. So I'm going to work them around just a little bit. We won't actually eat these herbs. We're just simply using them to really infuse this dish with a lot of flavor. And you will be absolutely amazed when you prepare this, how much of that herbaceous flavor comes through, despite the fact that none of it was ever chopped up and included in the part of the dish that you actually ate. So we're going to increase our heat just a little bit, because what we're looking for is to be able to pick up this nice hot fat and then baste it. I like to use a spoon that's got kind of a deep reservoir, and we're going to baste that hot fat right over this chicken. And what that's going to do is it's also going to add a little bit more color onto the top of the chicken, but it's going to bathe it in that herb-infused butter and oil. And I can tell you that this smells absolutely amazing. So I highly encourage you to try this technique. Now, how long should I butter baste this? Well, what we're looking for with chicken breast is we're looking to cook this to about 160 degrees Fahrenheit internally. So when we accomplish that 160, we're just a few degrees below what the recommended safe cooking temperature is for poultry, which is 165. Now, you want to always account for something called carryover cooking anytime you're cooking poultry, but it matters for all types of meat, beef, pork, lamb, all of them. You don't want to overshoot your desired doneness. If you do, you're going to end up with tough, dry, less enjoyable food to eat. So you want to get it just to that minimum cooking temperature. So by cooking to 160, we're going to then have 5 or so degrees of what's called carryover cooking. And that carryover cooking is what's going to take us to 165 degrees Fahrenheit internally. Now, I have an instant read thermometer. I'm a big fan of instant reads. There are some really nice ones on the market. My favorite is by a company called ThermoWorks, and it's a ThermoPen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a reading here on the thickest part of my chicken breast. And the reason I'm going to look in the thickest part is because if the thickest part is done, the thinner parts will definitely be done. So we've still got a little ways to go here. So we're at about 155 on this one, 140-ish on the other one. So I'm going to turn the heat down. We're going to baste for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll have these rested and we'll slice them up. We have our chicken Statler breasts here that we butter basted with herbs and garlic. These have been resting on our cutting board for a few minutes, and I've gotten out a slicing knife. So you want a long, sharp knife for this. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to make a few slices on this. Now, this chicken skin is really nice and crisp, beautifully brown. So you want to try to preserve that and make sure that everyone that eats it gets a little bit as you slice. Now, of course, you can serve these right on a plate and let people slice them themselves. But I like to, for these videos, just kind of demonstrate how incredibly juicy this breast meat is. I hope you guys can get a good close-up of this chicken breast right here, but the juices are just, you can see them running down it. For a lot of people, they've never eaten a chicken breast that's actually juicy like that. It's so often such a dry affair, but absolutely juicy, absolutely delicious. And I have to say, perfectly cooked. So we're gonna finish slicing these. I'm gonna plate them very simply. I've got just a simple round plate here, and I've got a little bit of lemon, because similar to salt being very important in elevating flavors, a little bit of acidity also goes a long way towards elevating flavor. So a couple of elegant little lemon wedges. We'll squeeze that right over, and we're gonna have to stop the video right now because Colt and I are gonna have to eat some chickens. I love it. So here, I'll give you this plate so you got your own chicken breast. And I'll take a bite of this one. Oh my goodness. Mmm.
That's so good.
Mmm.
Sucks to be them.
Yep. That is some fine chicken. Knight Family Farm. That's right. Mmm.
I wish chickens had more skin.
Oh, me too. Well, this could be totally wrapped in skin.
This video was brought to you by the University of Maine Cooperative Extension Grazing Behavior Lab and the Dr. Matthew Hyland's Pilot Plant. A special thanks to Knight Family Farm in Garland, Maine for donating the delicious chicken in this video.
All right, welcome back. We're gonna...
You said all right about 10 times already. And then when this cuts together in 15-second intervals.
I'm gonna be like, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Okay, let me know when to go.